the symptoms did not abate, I counseled that they go to the hospital to help us to know exactly what we were dealing with. And they asked if I could assist, help them facilitate that process. I called our head of medical team, Dr. Sang, who is consultant pediatrician with the Federal Medical Center, Kefi, to assist handle their situation. And he called the Federal Medical Center, Jabi, called colleagues there where they attended to them. On seeing her, they ordered some investigations after examination, and that included CT scan, computerized axial tomography scan. That was done, and from what the doctors saw, they felt that there was need for further investigation, either at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital or the National Hospital in Abuja. I called the doctor, consultant pulmonologist, respiratory physician at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, Dr. Ako Alexander, told him the situation, and he asked that they come to see him immediately. And they went to the Gwagwalada Teaching Hospital. After they had examined her there and saw the situation, they felt that there was a need for histology and biopsy of the lung tissue. And they asked that she go to the National Hospital to get that done. I again called the Dr. Jibrin, who is head of pathology and consultant histopathologist of the National Hospital in Abuja, and reported the issue to him and to help us go ahead with the investigations and find out what exactly happened. I am calling names and calling places because the people are available, are live, and they are all verifiable. And then they continued the management. The histology was done. From what I saw at that time, the picture was much milder than what the CT scan earlier on showed. And so we felt very happy that at least there was relief. She called me daily, literally daily, and prayed with her. She reported progress. The point came where she didn't know oxygen anymore, according to what she said to me one night, and that they checked her oxygen perfusion, and it was 100%. And we were very, very excited at that progress. That was the point it was before we went over to the crusade in Cameroon. It was in Cameroon the second night that I got to know of the unfortunate incidents of her passing. Now, if there was domestic violence that led to or coincided with those symptoms that she came with 2.5 months to 3 months ago, there is no way I would know. And if there had been perennial domestic violence, there was no way I would have known. The things we're hearing after her passing were things that were very, very strange to my hearing. Then I began to ask questions. First, I asked the twin sister, are you aware that your sister, were you aware that your sister passed through all these things? She said yes, she knew some of them, but that the majority of them, she was hearing also from those she confided in. I asked her, I said, if you knew, why didn't you let us know? And the twin sister said, she always begged her, please don't let the church know, don't tell the pastor, please, the man will change, please, just pray for us, the man will change. And that continued to happen. I asked the first son yesterday, I said, was this real? And the son told other stories. And I said, so why didn't you tell me? Because typically they will run to me after service and I'll pray for them, lay hands on them. Why didn't you tell me about what was going on in the home? And the young man said, they couldn't tell me because the father would always ask them after they left me and said, what did you tell the pastor? Did you tell him anything? And so on and so forth. Other members in the choir who were privy to this, some of the things that were going on. I asked one of them when we paid the visit to the house of the deceased yesterday, what happened? Why were we not aware of all these things? The same story. that she would always go on her knees and ask them, please, don't, just pray, don't, by trusting God for him to change. The last one that taught me so much was the music producer who came to see me in the office 2 days ago to tell me his own experience, how he witnessed that the man slapped the wife in his music studio. And I said to him, you saw a man slap a woman in your presence and you left the man alone and you are a man yourself. And he said before he could respond to the man, the woman again in tears on her knees begged him not to do anything, to leave him alone, and not even to do anything at all, and so on and so forth. So we have had these stories, and this is all the things that we got to know after she had passed.
Oh, hello, people. I welcome you once again to my YouTube channel, The District. We're still on the case of Osinachi Nwachukwu, her death. Uh, Finally, Dr. Pastor Paul Eneche has officially reacted to it. And I think the timing is very accurate because for some people who are calling out for an earlier reaction, I don't think that is necessary. That is right, because from the little I know about him, he's a man that would want to verify his facts before he reacts. As you can see, he has narrated his own side of the story. Okay, he got to know. For him, this whole thing began about 2 months ago when they came. They said artist with a husband came and reported a case, medical case, to him, which he prayed, and of course he did not abate. And then eventually he referred them, being a medical doctor himself, referred them uh, to the hospital. Not just referring them, he facilitated the whole process. And of course, knowing who he is, I know he did so much towards um, helping out in this whole uh, matter. Now, the first thing I want to say here is that this reaction is a very prompt one, and I thank Dr. Pastor Paul Eneche for giving an um, uh, official account of his own side of the story, because there are a whole lot of misinformation. One of the reasons why, if you watch some of the videos that I did on this subject, I have not really gone all out on the man, because everything I'm hearing right now is basically people are social media based, and I will not do anything or make my own conclusions based on what we're hearing on the social media. I think the best thing is to leave it at the investigation. Uh, um, Aswekia once called out that people should be calm and wait for investigations and all that. And right now, Pastor Paul and Eneche uh, have also let us in into this, that after inquiring on his own part, there were about 4 people he inquired from. Okay, he said the presence of domestic violence or perennial domestic violence is something he was not privy to or aware of before now. And then he had to ask about 4 people, the twin sister, about it to confirm. The twin sister said yes, confirmed that such existed. But Osinachi would always beg that the pastor should not be told, that the man will change. He also asked the son. He said the son told his own side of the story, And he said, why didn't you tell me? And he said, the father will always ask them, what did you tell the pastor? Now you can see that this man is a very domineering person. He's a very, oh my God, help us. He's a very domineering kind of individual. And for you to see they all lived in fear of the man, both Osinachi and the children actually lived in fear of the man. And then he also asked the choir members who knew, and she, because the choir member must know, because Osinachi is an active member of the choir in Dunamis, and then they, to some extent, will see the control the man is actually exerting on her. Then he asked them and said, why didn't you tell me? And they said, the same story. Producers also a producer, uh, knowing from what he didn't call him, but I know that should be Frank Edward, because Frank Edward also told his own side of the story, that he was present the man slapped when the man slapped the woman. Now the question here is, who is to be blamed in all this? Who is to be blamed? Uh, do you blame the pastor? The pastor has played his own role, and I think I said it earlier that pastors are not God. All right, and the dicey nature of marital issues is such that you can only intervene to what extent you are invited into it. All right, we've seen a case where some pastors, maybe because of the attachment they have with the family, wants to come in and somebody is shouting foul, oh, the pastor wants to take away my wife and all that and all that and all that. We've seen cases like that. So even pastors are very careful before they go into this. Now, if I ask you, how are you doing? How is your husband? You say, if all is well. That's what I'm going to operate by. For me, I would say Osinachi died of her good-hearted nature, holding high hopes for the man who is obviously a monster sent from hell to destroy her life, and who uh, never changed. This is a case of, from the stories we're hearing, which I don't want, if the stories we're hearing on YouTube is anything to come by, you know that the man has a history of domestic violence. Uh, if Osinachi's sister is coming out to say that the family was not aware that the man was initially married, and nobody knew the story of the first marriage and how the first marriage ended, and Osinachi reported Osinachi died, okay, without even knowing this. All right. So if I think a whole lot of things, there are more to this than meets the eye. What I mean is, on the part of the family, what kind of a family is Osinachi's family? All right. What kind of a family did Osinachi actually come out from? Yes, we know her. She's a talented, an anointed gift of God. But what kind of family did he come from? How responsible. Now every one of them is talking, is saying all kinds of things. Why are they even talking now? Why are they talking now? Is it to drag Osinachi's fortune, if there is anyone she left at all? Or is it really to why are they speaking? You are aware of all these things, and there is no decisive action that you took, knowing the kind of person your sister is, that she will never uh, uh, come out of that. You, at least you should have taken this to her. People should have reacted and break that control to some extent. People who are powerful enough to intervene in such situations should have stepped in. If the information that you people are bringing out to the public now, which I don't know what you intend to achieve with this. For me, the man, even if the government decide to nab the man and jail the man, it's not enough. We just lost the jewel. We just lost the red gem. It shouldn't have been. Nobody deserves to die that way. But if all this information coming up now were done earlier, perhaps we wouldn't have lost this lady. Okay, the pastor have just narrated his own side of the story, and he said he began to hear issues of perennial domestic abuse after after the event of her demise. That this was not brought to his notice, and you know that the pastor is somebody who sits over a large spectrum of activities, and only if God reveals that to him. For me, Osinachi decided to carry that cross. I'm not the one to say it's the will of God for her, but she decided to carry it because of her good-hearted nature. God never willed for her to die that way. I don't believe so. It wasn't the will of God for her to die the way she died, but her good-hearted nature took her life. The good thing is that she died in the Lord. She died in active service, and I know the enough time that God gave her in that sick bed, she would have made amends with God, and I believe strongly by His grace, by the grace of God, that certainly her eternal destiny is secured. Definitely, there's no story about it. Her eternal destiny is secured. But what we're talking about right now, this should have been prevented. Thank God that the pastor is exonerated. For people who try to vent their frustration on the church and look for what to say against the church and all that, this does not call out for all these things. The church has done its part. The pastor has played his role as he can, but that also tells us something, that to a great extent, every one of us is the architect of our own destiny. There is a limit to what any man, be it a pastor, be it whoever it is, even your parents, can intervene in your own life. You are the architect of your own destiny. My people used to say that you don't tell an old man to come out from the sun. Now, the sense behind that is that when someone is going through a hard situation, it is expected of the person to know, especially if it's a matured person, then expected of the person to know that this is becoming unbearing, and then leave it and leave it and escape with his own life or her own life. So you don't tell an old man or an old woman to come out of a scorching sun. All right? If the sun begins to beat, the natural thing to do is the person to look for a shade. So that's what we're talking about. Osinachi died for her good-hearted nature. I don't believe it's the will of God for her. The pastor is exonerated here. Much of the blame, if I'm to blame anyone, but I don't see a reason, because the blame will not even help anything, is to blame it on her family. I keep questioning what kind of a family did she come from. When you see such a perennial, your sister is married to a monster, to a devil, and you do nothing about it. At least let people subscribe to people that are powerful enough to break the control that husband has over her, knowing that this is an emotional thing. And perhaps they are also trying to cover their image in the church. And let people not say that Osinachi's husband is there. He doesn't want the story to spread. But look at what has happened. It has cost her life. Okay? It has cost her life. It's actually, wow. Well, it's okay. It's all right. Thank God that Dr. Pastor Paul Eneche has reacted to this. But I keep saying nobody deserves to die like this. And we are all our own, the chief architect of our own destiny. All right? A pastor cannot do for you what ordinarily you can do for yourself. It's very important you understand that. Daily Stripes signing up. Please, if you like this content, share, hit the notification button, like and subscribe to my channel. Help me to hit the 1000 threshold mark. God bless you. It is right signing up.